Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, December 15th, 2021. This is a meeting of the Building and Finance Subcommittee. Call the meeting to order and remind everyone the mission for Gloucester Public Schools is for all students to be successful and engaged lifelong learners. This meeting is being recorded in accordance with current open meeting law. We will not have public comment tonight at this meeting because it's a subcommittee. First order of business, Gary.
Okay. Tony, could you put on the screen the CFO presentation? Sure. Thank you. And we turn to the next page or slide 2. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is budget development and management. So we're going to the next B&F meeting, which is in January. What we're going to do is present the budget. So this B&F meeting, we're going to talk about what goes in the budget and how we develop it and how we manage through the process. We have several slides on the process, and then we'll look at some examples of the budget worksheet. The overarching budget message is we want to say is our budget for FY23 will align itself with the district improvement plans. This is important because we want to spend the money given to us by the taxpayers in the most beneficial manner, and to strengthen instruction and help students get the most out of their education. Next few slides will demonstrate how we achieve this goal. Okay, so the annual budget is the financial framework of the educational goals of the district. The CFO, under the direction of the superintendent, will serve as the budget officer and have overall responsibility for budget prep, including construction of and adherence to the budget calendar, which we presented previously. The 3 general areas of the responsibility as budget officer will be the budget prep, budget presentation on January 19th, to the B&F committee, and of course budget administration throughout the school year. Now the budget dollars will correlate with the district improvement plans for the district. And on February 9th of next year, the superintendent will present the budget to the school committee and articulate exactly how the budget is aligned with the educational goals. So we have 2 upcoming presentations, and there will be real exciting stuff. Nice. A major portion of the budget is derived from local property taxes, and the school committee serves to prioritize the educational goals of the district while at the same time protecting the interests of the taxpayers. It is a delicate balance that the school committee strives to achieve. Now, the school administration, principally the superintendent and myself, works closely with the city administration and elected officials to set a responsible and reasonable budget for funding the educational program. The superintendent and the CFO, using input from many budget planning meetings of the administrative team, building principals, and department supervisors, determine the appropriate allocation of resources across the district. In an effort to recommend a budget that meets the needs of the educational program and operational priorities of the district, and at the same time is equitable in nature throughout the school system. So equity is really key to the budget. In the fiscal management of the Gloucester Public Schools, the superintendent and the CFO seek to achieve the following goals. We have 5 goals here: to engage in thorough advanced planning with staff and community involvement in order to develop budgets and to guide the expenditures so as to achieve the greatest educational returns and the greatest contributions to the educational program in relation to the dollars expended. It's our goal to seek levels of funding that will provide a high quality education for the students. My job is to provide timely and appropriate information to all staff with fiscal management responsibilities. Our goal is to provide sufficient funds as available to maintain a lower than average class size whenever possible. And finally, to provide sufficient funds to ensure that the staff members are paid within an equitable range in comparison to our neighboring school districts and DART districts. Strategic priorities. Superintendent, main goal is to improve student learning and achievements by 3 items: strengthening instruction and deepening student engagement, strengthening student social emotional learning and mental health support, and supporting our most vulnerable students through improved coordination of services. And of course, to communicate our successes within our school community and across Gloucester. By having each school principal and each director meet with the CFO and the superintendent, we will build district and school budgets that are closely aligned with our strategic priorities, take into account the work already happening in each school and department, and allow for sustained growth and improvement. Expectations. For FY23, we expect a very limited number of new positions or new initiatives across the district for 2 main reasons. The need to shift ESSER-funded positions onto the operating budget in FY23 and FY24 before ESSER funding ends. So we want to take the positions and the expenditures in ESSER funds and shift, if possible, onto the, over the next several years, onto the operating funds. Anticipated increases in healthcare costs are another reason that we see that it's going to be limited funds available for anything new other than the ESSER funds, moving costs onto the operating funds. In addition, out-of-district placements are variable. Special education is variable in terms of the number of students and the types of learning deficits. English language learners keep growing at a fast clip. And those learners require additional supports. And of course, homeless and foster transportation costs, as we see this year, have increased rapidly. So the next one, budget meeting notes. This is when we meet with each department head or building principal. The superintendent asks, what are your priorities for your school or department? Which of the strategic priorities is each of your priorities connected to? What do you need in order to execute on your priorities? What is needed so that you can achieve? And then, of course, what are you willing to let go? It's just not adding. Is there anything we're doing now that we don't need to continue? Along those lines, what could you cut or stop doing in order to reallocate the funds into its most effective uses? What are your facilities and furniture needs? And we continue to ask and develop our list of facility improvements needed at each of our locations. Budget worksheets now, as promised, we'll look at a few examples of our budget worksheets that we provide each of the department heads and building principals. In our budget worksheets, there are 3 components: ordinary expenses, which are everything but staffing cost. The second main worksheet is personal staffing, and we look at and we ask each department head or building principal to verify each of the staff members on the list. And of course, capital projects, what kind of capital maintenance is needed, and replacements for any furniture within the school or department. So let's look at a few examples. This is ordinary expenses. We have the account on the left. In pink is where the department head or building principal will add items under each account. We have the account number represented by the org number in object. We have 3 years of actual history, FY18 through FY20 along the top. And then we have the budget for last year. The budget, this is an example of FY22, so it's the budget for FY22 that they filled in. So I used an example from last year. This is an example of personnel staffing cost. This is at Beeman. And notice on the left side, there's a number. Each position has a position control number on the left to keep track of each staff member. We have the job description, principal at Beeman, the name of the person, and full-time or partial time. Partial time would be represented by less than 1.0. So in Beeman, the module C under capital projects for FY23 is modular repairs, some exterior painting at the school. So recently that has been approved by the city council. So we're well on our way to seeing that be realized in the upcoming school year, upcoming summer. Now that is let me stop there before we move on to the next agenda item. But what I covered was our budget development and management process. And we're going to use that process to develop the budget that we present next time we meet. So I know I went through a lot. I went through that pretty fast, but it's the same process that we've used last year, which you liked, and we just wanted to describe it and review with you how we do what we do.
No, I just comment, I think this will be very helpful for the new members.
Yeah. Good, good.
I'd also like to comment that I think even though you follow the same process, I think the articulation of the questions are, fantastic, because it really does communicate that we are using our improvement plan, and that's reflected in this budget, and makes people reflect on that. I also think this particular presentation would be great for face of our website, so the community knows how we approach budgeting for our
Okay.
schools.
Yeah,
Maybe even have a Facebook page, send a post out saying, you know, if you're curious how we do this. Are any of the incoming B&F members on the watching tonight at home?
I don't see anybody watching. Zero.
Never mind.
No attendees.
but I think it's a great process. And I just want to emphasize, probably the most important thing is connecting the budget to the educational goals. And so that makes sure that we're spending our money to where we should be spending.
I just want to mention for the record that Melissa takes our present, so we do have a quorum of the school committee, but it's nice to have you here.
Thank you. Just observing.
Great. The next is the next on the list is the MOU. Now this MOU, we developed it, it's a memorandum of understanding for school maintenance and repair and custodial cleaning. And this is between the superintendent and the director of DPW in the city. And of course, it's ratified by the school committee. So this document is very much important to the school committee as it is to the administration. What I'm going to do is do a real brief overview. And then in our packet is the actual draft of the document, and then we can zero in on some points and make changes. And of course, I want to just emphasize here that this is a draft. And it's meant to be a conversation starter. And we want to update it and make it more usable to match our needs. Okay, so let's just go overview, continue with it. The term of the agreement we propose is a 3-year agreement, July 1st, 2022 to start through June 30th, 2024. This has been part of the agreement is for a custodial supervisor to be on staff. And they've had it, DPW has had it, but there's been a gap of a period of time. And they're in the process of hiring a new custodial supervisor, but that position is key to the overall coordination and annual evaluations of the building custodians. So that's a very important position that should be mentioned in the MOU. During the agreement, the DPW director, assistant DPW director, superintendent of schools, myself, school CFO, meet monthly per year to discuss the conditions of the facilities and long-term capital planning needs. It's very important for both parties to be on the same page in terms of both the conditions, what is needed to be repaired, and also our long-term capital planning needs that will take several years to accomplish. So let's move on to the next slide. Here is a subtle change, and I'll explain the reason. One subtle change is the school committee will be responsible for all school gardens and flower beds. So this is not a high priority of DPW, but it is very much a high priority to the building administration. The outside gardens, flower beds present the first look image of the building. And we take great pride in making that appearance be as best as possible. So we would take over that responsibility in working with our building principals and their PTO membership and working out the best way to accomplish a nice appearance. DPW will be responsible for, and here's another slight change, for all school buildings, cafeterias, and building systems. So right now, anything in the cafeteria is the school administration's responsibility. Of course, we don't have any staff members, any that are in the trades. And we feel that many of the repairs or maintenance could be done by the tradesmen in the DPW staff. And so that's what we would like to include that as part of the overall responsibility for the school buildings and building systems. All the equipment for the educational office and IT systems will remain the responsibility of the school committee. All other equipment, kitchen equipment, building systems, and intercom systems shall be the responsibility of DPW.
Kitchen equipment, as you may know, would be a shift. Kitchen equipment and also the kitchens themselves. At this point, they're sort of hands off the DPW, but we want to shift that.
Well, the reality is we need them to help anytime we need something done. Usually anyway.
Sure. So responsibility, is that term as it's used in here, meaning just the financial responsibility or also the actual active responsibility? So for example, I'm thinking, you know, if one of these tables in here is broken and someone has bolted it back together, right? Seems to me like that'd be the DPW be bolting it back together, or you know, or redoing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so no, we don't have any staff to do that.
Right. So that's my responsibility.
So, right, and then so that would go be a work order into the ticketing system, and then get repaired. If we have replaced furniture, that's on us.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's more about financial responsibility, less, you know. Just like, or like, for instance, if we were to buy a bunch of new desks, it would come out of the school department's, you know, account, but who's putting those desks together?
Yeah, usually the custodians are,
Okay.
or DPW might assign more additional staff, and our principals help out, honestly.
So my curiosity is the language in here clear, or could at some point, let's say, you know, right now relationships are good, but let's say this MOU again goes another 10 years up, just keeps getting renewed, or just whatever it is.
Yep.
And someone, you know, eventually says, hey, you know, Beaman needs 200 desks put together. You know, that's the responsibility of the school committee. I'm not sending, I got no one to put desks together. Check the MOU. Desks are, you know, the responsibility of the school committee.
Yeah, further down in the document itself, talks about that together, both the school committee and the DPW will develop and work collaboratively in deciding where the financial responsibility lies. So in most cases, in this case, if we need a new mixer, that is on us. But if we need the mixer to be connected to the power directly to the electrical system, we would want them to do that.
Sure, and I think under the current cooperation that's happening, that'd probably be no problem. Again, it's just a legal document that's supposed to set expectations. So I'm just going, in the future, is there the ability where the school would kind of find itself on like a turtle on its back going like, oh.
Yeah, so we'll look.
Yeah, sure.
That's good input. Yeah, so just to sort of clarify that.
So I mean, the financial responsibility.
Yeah, financial responsibility, but also some of the work, you know, I mean, like, as you said, there's a number of things that are sort of I don't know, assumed is done by practice, right? And so may want to look and make sure there's a little more clarity on, that, like, I mean, the tables are a good example. It's that sort of labor, that sort of work that we literally don't have the staff to do. By design, but look at that.
I mean, to your point, it makes sense to clarify that.
For sure.
Yeah. So duly noted. All other equipment, other than, okay, I've covered that. The custodial, this is the same, custodial staff shall be under the day-to-day direction of the principal of each school. That's how it's done today. Hiring and discipline actions will be recommended by principals, but through the superintendent to the DPW. And that's how it's done today. Each principal may petition the DPW director to remove a custodial staff from a particular building, but in accordance with the rules and regulations of the collective bargaining agreement. So they have to follow the procedures as part of their union. The superintendent, and here's, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so my only other question regarding this bifurcation of duties would be, I think one of the things we talked about previously is like windows, obviously their responsibility to DPW, they're a building thing, but window shades have been school related. And so that, and kind of to my, so going forward, you go, okay, well, is it a window shade, an educational office or IT system, or is it a school building system, or like, trying to like, there are probably terms of art, right? I'm sorry to over lawyer this, but there's probably terms of art that have specific meaning in this realm, and it may be smart to look those and use those, or it may be smart to, I read the memo, they use pretty much the same terms you have in the slide. It may be good to have examples like, education, example, computers, globes, markers, etc. Building systems, windows, if it's window shades, include those, doors, hardware. Like I'm just saying, you may want to either find terms of art that have a agreed upon meaning in building maintenance, common practice, or otherwise really kind of dig deep and get some good parenthetical examples and list, 5 or 10 examples of what we mean. Because even if everyone is on the exact same page right now, does not mean that in 2027, whoever's reading it then will be on the same page that everyone in 2021 was on now. You know what I'm trying to say?
No, I agree. And as you were saying that, I was thinking that, in the appendix could be of the examples that you mentioned.
Sure, yeah. But it should be smart to make sure while everyone's being friendly and while everyone's being cooperative and while we're hammering this out, let's like use that to our advantage to really get this as drilled down as possible so that in the future, there's no confusion.
Well, and to your point, I think in practice, it could have been, sometimes it goes either way. The shades. Sometimes I think the shades were paid by DPW and then other times paid by us. So the clarity is, as you mentioned, would make it richer. Okay. So
just hit some of the highlights rather than go through each floor.
okay.
Next slide.
So this is important. The superintendent and director of DPW will prepare a budget for the following year. And, in the budget, it's going to be maintenance of school facilities and grounds, capital needs for replacing existing equipment. So we'll sit down and divvy up who's going to, budget for what. But again, this could, we could add more examples and make this richer as to the previous comment. But items A and B on this example will have a DPW budget and a school budget. Item C are more long-term in nature, more expensive. And those I see, as we've done previously, we asked the school committee to request to be funded by the city. So that pretty much is the same as what we do today.
It one thing we're trying to get to, we made some progress last year, but I didn't get completely there, is essentially at the end of the budgeting process, and then the planning with DPW is that sometime in April, so we have the same list, DPW and ourselves have the same list. And the principals have the same list of what's expected to happen, the upcoming year, upcoming summer, upcoming year, but also long term. Now then repairs and maintenance come during the school year, but we're planning that way where we have the same list as opposed to, just because folks weren't in the practice yet, last year there was some, talking to DPW and some talking to us, and some of those conversations were different. We got that, have one conversation with us, we share with DPW, and then everyone and the principal are on the same page at that point. So we had that at one point in the year, and then we can also then build year to year, obviously.
So now, I'll open it up for questions. We can refer to the specific document that's in the package. If any of the school committee members want to add or edit or delete the document, here's a perfect time to do so.
One thing, sorry, we discussed, we have not changed, added the Talbot arena back in. Okay, just in terms of scheduling that we have priority for scheduling.
We had heard O'Malley's in for gym class again.
Sorry,
O'Malley's in for gym class again.
Oh,
that's possible.
that's excellent.
That's awesome, right? Yeah.
No, it's good, it's good, it's good. I just didn't know it, but it's okay.
When I was there.
No kidding, right? Yeah,
So,
Still hold the skates upstairs?
The other thing that we had problem with DPW in the city in the past is negotiating contracts with the custodians. There was a point that somehow the custodians got into their contract that they were not responsible to clean up the cafeterias after lunch.
Oh, yes.
So I just, but the original document said that somebody from the school committee should be present during negotiations. That's what it said. So you might want to just look at that and just say, because that's, I don't know whether it has to be present, but they have to be aware of any changes of duties.
Oh, in their contract.
Yeah, that can be a problem.
And inform of any proposed change in duties
Yeah. That's
while they're negotiating.
Right.
And not after the fact, it's too late,
Right,
right?
that was.
Wow, there
what
you
happened
go.
in the past.
Oh, that's a good one.
I reviewed the document. I think it looks good with those couple of
Those changes.
exceptions. And I think through conversations with Mike Hale and DPW, the way we've been doing business on a collaborative basis on certain projects, certain things, right? Sometimes we might push things and pay for them to make them happen.
Yeah.
We use the plumbing tickets that seem to have fallen, when they have a lot and they can't get to it for staffing, we may have money that will help facilitate and get those things done because we need it for education.
Yep.
And so, those kinds of collaborative as we go should be accounted for in the agreement as well. That, sometimes it's not strictly this, sometimes it can be.
Yeah,
But I think that practice has worked well.
yeah.
in recent years.
Okay, that sounds good.
Wait, I'm sorry. Let me just understand, in terms of, how would that show up in the, I mean, that's exactly how things need to work.
Exactly. So
But how,
I just think in discussions,
Yeah.
acknowledge that there, from time to time,
right,
there may be discussions that lead to a collaborative, solution.
great, okay. great,
Okay.
okay, yep.
And that's certainly a good topic for our monthly meetings.
Yeah, that's.
Joe?
Sure. In the first section, so the term is 2 years. So it would take effect July 1st of 2022. And then it is subject to annual review by the mayor and the school committee on July 1st of each year. What is it? What do you envision that review to do? there's no provision to amend it. It's just to begin the discussion about whether it's going to be renewed or what. I'm just trying to figure what the mayor and the school committee are going to do on the 1st of July each year as part of their review of this. Their finals.
Um,
So you don't have to answer that question tonight, but it was something that kind of stuck out and says that what's, and then what? It was kind of my, like, okay, they review it and then what? And then the second part is, if either party desires not to renew this agreement, that party should give no less than 120 days notice prior to the expiration. So that's 4 months back from June 30th. So is that May, April, March, it's February, end of February? If DPW came to you end of February and said, hey, just a heads up, Gary, we're going in a different direction. We're not renewing this MOU. Would you be able to suddenly get money allocated into our budget for the following year and begin the hiring process for, to the point where when July hits,
Yeah,
and the DPW says, it's been fun, guys, good luck. And I'm not accusing that they'll ever actually do this, but this is a legal document that has that
right,
opportunity, right?
right.
Is 120 days really enough time for a school department to prepare budgetarily and staffing wise to pick up the oar July 1?
Excellent point. So I think we need to revisit that.
Like 9 months or something, right? Like maybe 9 months before it renews, you gotta let us know if you're not
We
renewing. right?
need to build in more time.
Yeah,
Yeah, to your point, it's,
What's the consequence?
yeah, it's mixed.
well, for me, it is too.
Yeah,
Make them, right?
Yeah.
Right, hey,
so excellent.
It really doesn't matter.
Well, this was very helpful.
So what's the next step? You envision kind of capturing some of these things and begin discussions?
Yeah, so to capture these, revise it, then we'll meet in January with Mike and Joe, get their, start getting their feedback on it. Ultimately, we work through the rest of it with them, and then come back to the committee. We really wanted to go with them with the draft that you guys have seen, given us.
We wanted to be comfortable with, that you were comfortable.
Well done.
Thank you. All right, so Cody is going to talk about the transfers, budget transfers.
Sure, there's only 4 on here. All of them are from one ordinary account to the other. First one is for $1,000. It's coming from transportation, special education, maintenance account. It's going to special education's parent travel reimbursement account, just because we've got more opportunities for parents to take out of district students on their own rather than using a service, which is definitely cheaper, I'd say. The second transfer is a movement within the IT budget, just from one ordinary account to the next for additional professional hardware. We've had a lot more people join the team. They needed to provide devices for them, so they were unaware of some of them, but we found out how to proceed to make them aware in enough time for them to be ready for it. The third transfer is another IT ordinary to ordinary transfer, and that is for additional E-rate consulting. And then the last transfer is within the business ops accounts from supplies to professional and technical services. That's all of them.
Good motion?
I'll make a
Question-
motion that-
questions?
oh, any questions? I'll make a motion that we approve the budget transfer. We recommend to the full committee that they approve the budget transfers. As
Second,
Discussion? No? Maria?
Kathy,
Yes.
Joel,
yes.
and Jonathan.
yes,
So that concludes our agenda for this evening.
Yes.
It's been to be here in December with a couple of our people no longer continuing in this group, but I think we did some great work. And you folks are doing a great job. As I say, I think the budget process just keeps getting better and better, not from necessarily managing the money,
Well, no, that's, I mean, that's always been strong, it's been strong.
It's been strong.
Okay, that's
It's
very
been-
clear.
I'm saying it's been strong, but articulating it through what we're supposed to talk about, which is students and education and how it impacts children. I think it sounds better done.
Okay, great. I just want to say I enjoyed this B&F committee. We're definitely going to miss two members who gave some rich input into our processes. And I think we're better off from it. So good luck to Joel and Jonathan, the J team. We're going to miss you guys.
Second that.
Yes, I agree with that.
So we have a motion.
Make motions that we adjourn?
Second,
Maria?
Kathy,
Yes?
Joel,
yes.
and Jonathan.
Yes.
All right, let's have some pizza.
I always got